Seven Deadly Sins, Seven Lively Virtues also came up out of parish missions and talks and retreats I've given over the years. And it's very much structured around Dante. He was one of my great heroes. My book, And Now I See, has a large section on Dante and the journey into hell. What you find here is Dante's discussion of Mount Purgatory. In his imagination, Purgatory is a mountain that has 7 stories, hence Thomas Merton's famous book, The Seven-Story Mountain. But you have the 7 stages corresponding to the 7 deadly sins: pride, envy, anger, sloth, gluttony, avarice, and lust. At each level, you deal with the sin by a kind of a process of opposition. You say, well, I'm a person of pride, therefore I need humility. And on the mountain, you are forced to deal with your problem. The prideful, for example, have to carry great boulders in Dante's imagination. What that does is it presses you to the ground. Humility is from the word humus, meaning earth. So if you're humble, you're close to reality. You're not puffed up, you know. The gluttonous, for example, on Dante's mountain are forced to fast. So there they are, they're all gaunt and thin, you know. So the idea is what Ignatius called agere contra. You act against whatever your sin is. So in this piece, I develop that idea as I lay out the 7 classical deadly sins, and then there are 7 answering virtues. So this one I think is very helpful to those who want to examine their conscience, and that's true of all of us. When I'm in the confessional with people sometimes, I will mention the 7 deadly sins as a way of examining your conscience. How are you doing on these 7 areas? And then to suggest some of these antidotes, the 7 lively virtues. So I think this discussion has a lot of practical application too in the spiritual life. The 7 deadly sins name certain patterns of dysfunction in all of us. That's why, you know, I find intriguing, a lot of people will run around to the latest trend, you know, whether it's the Enneagram or it's something that names your spiritual tendencies. Well, I mean, why bother with that? We have in our own tradition these very powerful tools. And that's what this is it's looking at these patterns of dysfunction in you that lead to unhappiness. And God wants us to be happy. That's the whole spiritual life. And so how do you deal with it? Well, the 7 lively virtues come in as antidotes to these negative tendencies.